Simon, Mr. Simon Parks, the
Hello.
legend.
A legend in his own lifetime, Mahoney.
All right, yeah. I was thinking on the way, I've been doing a lot of driving today. I was thinking about where we start. So obviously you've got the Q&As. We'll let those pile.
Wherever you want, mate.
We'll get those piling up for the time being. And I'm just going to check that all the settings are good on the messages. Sorry, Drew. Yeah, I cut you off by accident there. You're back. I can't hear her now.
You booted me out.
Yeah, sorry. I hit the wrong button. I thought you'd figure it out. I'm recording anyway. So, Simon, were you talking about something and we cut you off?
Well, I'm sure I was, but who knows?
Who knows? All right. Shall we kick it off with what your interpretation of all this indictment from Trump is? Where are you going with that? What's your thoughts on that? It was on the tip of everybody's tongue yesterday.
That's the whole point. The whole point is to have this weekend everybody talking about that while they're not looking at where things are really happening. I personally don't believe that Trump will go anywhere near. They can't afford to let him anywhere near anything deep state. So it'll either be a body double or actually he won't. It'll all be done in the studio. You couldn't allow somebody as important as Trump to walk into, Manhattan, a courthouse or anywhere. You just couldn't do it. You just wouldn't do it. Why would you do that? So I think just as the bad guys showed a real just as the bad guys showed a real technical feat with 9/11, I'm hoping the good guys can show an absolute technical feat. Just 2 seconds. Give me that. Come here. Give that. So he's gone and taken his walking toy, you see. So he mustn't do that. Stop it. So basically, what I'm hoping is there will be a some sort of presentation that appears to show that, but isn't. When he goes in there, he won't be handcuffed. What is it? He won't be handcuffed.
I don't think they're going to handcuff him. Surely not.
Stand there for 5 minutes, say what he's got to say, and then he's going to go. But as Charlie would tell everybody, once that's happened, the president has been set, and then Biden is also potentially arrestable. Biden's arrestable far more simply because as a senator, when Biden was a senator, and when he was vice president, he took documents home. Now, only the president is allowed to declass documents and then take them home. Even the vice president can't do that. So this whole thing will allow, if they wish, to remove Biden simply on that. And then what we're looking for is Kamala Harris to say, no, thank you, I don't want the job. Kevin McCarthy to say, as a leader of the House, no, thank you, I don't want the job. And then the Supreme Court has literally got to order a new election. So that's just one option. Now, whether that happens immediately will depend on whether the focus groups reporting back to the Pentagon say that enough American people are awake. If there are not enough American people, then they'll just drag it on. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I can't see him being put in the handcuffs and led away, though. I think that's going to be something.
Not unless they want 1 million people armed with a gun on their way to shoot it all out. I mean, that's the point. This is why they can't allow them, because literally 1 million people will descend on the icons of authority, and it'll be like another civil war. And I can assure you, neither the bad guys nor the good guys want another civil war. They don't want it.
I was looking at the background history of Bragg, who's going to be the guy that's going to on the other side of the bench for him. I don't know what his official title is, but he's been funded by Soros, and Soros has withdrawn $500,000 from his account. He's also got implications that haven't been investigated about sexual misconduct as well. So I have a suspicion that they're setting the other guy up to be the fall guy as well, as a part of the White Hat operation, the prosecuting. What is he, the guy, Bragg? What's his official title? Somebody will put it in there. He's not.
Well, what Trump said was he was first of all going to get rid of Bragg, and then when he's got rid of Bragg, he was going to get rid of Biden. That's exactly what Trump has said.
The DA. So he's he's apparently the worst DA. New York at the moment's got the highest criminal records of wandering around on the streets that are free that should be in jail ever. They're the city's in the middle of a crime wave, and he's the district and he's not doing anything. So have they set Bragg in there deliberately to start saying, okay, this is the height of corruption. He's the district attorney. Look what he's not doing. Now he's taking this. It could well be a patsy situation to yet again expose more corruption inside the judicial system, as well as whatever's going on with Trump. Interesting case though, Simon. Let's see how it rolls out. Okay.
Not long to wait. Tuesday.
Not long to wait. There's been quite a few links between Nostradamus's, how do you pronounce that? Quantrails?
Yeah.
Linking several worldwide events at the moment, which are now leading to, they're about to announce the death of the Pope. Yes. Have you got any background on that? Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, first of all, unfortunately, sadly, Nostradamus was, by the deep state, pushed into the joke category. So you could go to a high street bookstore and you could buy, Nostradamus's predictions for a couple of quid. Now that might be really good, but the reality is it devalues him. This guy was an absolute genius because he predicted, it was 1 year out, the Second World War, and far more importantly than that, if anyone doubts the guy's ability, he named the person, he didn't quite get it right, he named the person who would be renowned for the Second World War. And instead of saying Hitler, what Nostradamus wrote was Hister.
Yeah.
Hister. Now, there's no way that you could imagine that unless either you had the technology to go into the future, or you literally had a gift you could do it. So we need to be very careful and not just wipe away anything Nostradamus says. Nostradamus also said that Charles would be the last king of England.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at these prophecies, a number of them now are all coming together. See, the difficulty that we have with him, and so quite understandably, Nostradamus couldn't give you a date. So he couldn't sort of say in 2035, this will happen. But what you can do, if you have the book, is you can see the order. And if you do a bit of research, you can actually work out, how it's, the authors have tried to put it in an order. They haven't always got it right. But you're right, Mahoney, there's about 3 or 4 prophecies that all take place in about a 5-year period. He could see what was happening. So I think you'll find that the Pope's death will be announced. And I'm very looking forward to see who they replace him with.
If they replace him at all. There's a lot of chatter on the spiritual channels and the medium channels, this sort of area, about April and May being massive months to reveal the truth about religions. And we're talking mostly all of the religions. If we start off with the Catholicism, it's Easter next week, and this is one of probably the most important times in the Catholic calendar. So if they were to announce something during the Easter celebrations, it would certainly be a world shocker. And I think that might be something they're going for. We did see some strange images of the Pope 3 years ago with some holographic technology waving out of some St. Paul's Square, St. Michael's Square, and whatever in Italy. So Charlie's been saying he's been dead for quite a while now, at least in captivity. He was confined to a certain building in Italy, some small palace or something. So let's see what happens as we roll into Easter, if there's anything in effect about that. Were you talking about med beds before, Simon? I got on because they're all saying finish your conversation with med beds. So if you want to finish that up, I don't know where you...
That's fine, I will do. The question basically was, will we be seeing med beds this summer? And so I was doing a lead into that. The answer is yes, but you won't be seeing them on a street near you. What I mean by that is there will be a very small number of med beds allocated to England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. I know the number. I'm not going to tell you what the number is. I know the number. I do not know where they're going to go. I do know that they will not be in a caravan. They won't be on a high street. They're going to be very, very secure brick buildings. And that will be the start of the rollout. They're doing it by population. So the larger a population, then the more they get. Do I hope to be involved with that? Yes, I do. And it will be a very secret rollout to start with, for obvious reasons. But the sooner we get started, the sooner we can get more in, and the sooner we can then go semi-public with it. But when that happens, please don't expect anyone to announce it. It's just going to happen, and it will start to process patients, and patients will actually have to sign an NDA so that they don't let on that they've had that treatment. They're going to just say, yeah, I went to the general hospital, or I won the national lottery and I was able to get private medicine. That's how it's going to have to be in the early days.
Yeah, to keep the secret, because there's going to be an absolute flood. I mean, not only have you got people with genuine medical conditions, you've then got the hypochondriacs who think they've got everything. You know, I know people that go looking, oh, I must have cancer. I must have cancer. I don't feel good. I've got to have cancer. What do you mean I don't have cancer? Simon.
Yes, darling.
Again, this might be it's good, this, isn't it? You know how popular these are. We should just talk about nothing, but, you know, do you like dominoes? What's your favorite card game? No, we're not going to do that. We are really popular when we have these chats. I'm happy to do it again. I've been looking at the situation in the UK. So for our American viewers, right now in Scotland, we have a Pakistani who's just been put in as the head of the Scottish Parliament. In England, we've got an Indian guy. In Ireland, which is our closest neighbour, we have another Indian guy. And the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, is Pakistani. So what the hell is going on? So the guy in London, the Prime Minister of the UK, he was never voted in. He was there by default. And it's the same situation in Scotland now. So there's a terrible situation where the country, a Christian country, is being led by Islam. What is going on? It's all upside down.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we have to be very careful how we put that across, because how many Premier football clubs have non-English people in them? Well, let's start with that.
Full of them.
Yeah, right. So are they there because they're non-English, or are they there because they actually play better football than any English person or British person? So if a person is not British and is in a position of responsibility, we need to be very careful. They may be there because they're the best person for the job. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I will agree with you that there's a plan here. There's a plan here to have all of the major countries in the United Kingdom with a leader who is clearly not a white middle-class man.
Yeah.
Now that's a point. And in politics, I know Charlie bangs on about this, but actually Charlie's wrong, because as a ex-politician myself, it is perfectly legal and right when a leader, prime minister, steps down, that party can elect a new person. Now, morally, it might not be right, but politically, it's perfectly right. And so if you think about it, when Tony Blair, the leader, prime minister, stepped down, he was replaced by Gordon Brown. And Gordon Brown decided to be morally right and have an election, which he lost. And most leaders who replace don't dare have an election because they'll be lost. So first of all, there's nothing technically wrong with that, morally wrong. And on terms of what is a Christian country doing with leaders who are not Christian, maybe they're the best person for the job. Now, I don't believe that any of the current leaders are white hats. So forget their race, forget their culture. I don't think they're white hats. I don't think any white hat would want to run any country at the moment until the poison has been removed. Once the poison has been removed, then I think white hats will come forward and go into these positions of responsibility. But at the moment, why in the Western world, why would a white hat want it? You've got a white hat in India, you've got a white hat in Russia, but their countries are far more organized than what theirs are. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah. There's something unnerving about it for me, because I get it on the political side, it can happen. But for all of it to happen at the same moment, it's very strange, especially when we've got thousands and thousands of these refugees being housed in hotels across Ireland. It's terrible now. Ireland and UK, young men of fighting age and fighting physique, all being housed. There's not many of them have their wives and children with them. They're all young men between 20 and sort of 35.
Yep.
It's a bit unnerving, that.
But what will happen, this is all just political, what will happen is they'll all be sent back. When the time changes, they'll all just be sent back. The whole role of this is exactly to make the local communities fearful, to complain and question why their government is doing it to them. And I think that most of these refugees will be absolutely pleased to return home, because all these countries will have RV'd. They will all have a much better standard of living. And as Charlie has said before, why would somebody want to come to England if you get the same or better lifestyle in Poland or Lithuania? So at the moment, people are here for a political reason. But when that politics changes, they'll just be sent straight back again.
I've seen some of the areas that they've been sent to in England. I believe that, because there's no way you'd really want to sort of live there. That's terrible.
No, well, that's it. I mean, the after COVID and the lockdowns, I think these hoteliers are absolutely delighted that they've got full hotel being paid for by the British government. I mean, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? If you had a time machine, you'd go back now, wouldn't you? You'd sell everything you got, including Granny, and you'd buy a B&B, or you'd buy a hotel, and you think, I've got 5 years of no problem. The government's going to pay for everything.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, that. Have you been watching the situation in France unfold every night since the ban on demonstrations? Who's doing all of this? Do you really believe that it is the general public that are getting this many days into this many organized demonstrations? And for the American audience, well, for any member of the audience, Macron decided to pass a law where people weren't allowed to retire until 2 years later, so 63 as opposed to 61. I think it was 2 or 3 years difference. The French population went bananas, and they started demonstrating on the streets, which turned a little bit heavy, where there were some trash cans and things like this. A few cars were burned. And then he decided to ban all demonstrations. And we're now 2 weeks into it, where every single night there's demonstrations. There's actual people sitting in restaurants in Paris where the street is outside on fire. Now, it's spread throughout the whole of France. In fact, Biarritz, which is a beautiful part of France, it's where Charlie Chaplin used to take a lot of his winters, funny enough. And right next door, Bordeaux, the town hall was taken over, I believe semi-destroyed. And the airport in Biarritz was occupied for a while on part of the protest. So what is really going on in France, Simon?
Well, Macron's doing a fantastic job for the White Hats. So that's what's going on in France. You have to be a French man or woman to actually appreciate what happened in the French Revolution. When the French Revolution took place, there was a facade of the new constitution, and that constitution enshrined the rights of the people. And the French are absolutely manic about retirement. They really defend the fact that they would retire at an early age, so that they then would have life afterwards to enjoy, social times. And the British people are not quite the same. The Americans, of course, don't have any sort of state system, so you could work till you're 80. In fact, in America, you have to make ends meet. So when Macron did what he did, he absolutely knew that would cause a bigger demonstration than bringing British apples or British lamb into France. So it's one of those holy shrines that you don't take down
Yeah.
unless you're prepared for about. So what I'm saying to you is that Macron is doing exactly what he's been told to do. He's been told to make it impossible for the French people to accept this legislation. And then by saying no demonstrations, he does two things. One, he shows how dictatorial and how controlled it all is. And secondly, it shows how weak he is because the audience still keep on demonstrating. So he is literally following the white hat line. That's great. I love it.
Interesting that. It never occurred to me that. I just thought he was trying to double down on sitting at the poker table, putting down another restriction, another one,
Yeah.
doubling down on it. But that's interesting. Answers a question, and that sits well with me. I can feel that's the answer. Simon, what's going on with the banking system after the last 2 weeks of all the craziness we've had? Do you see anything that's going to continue with that? Because it seems to have all settled down. They've all been bought up, jumped on, handed out. Clients have been helped. What's your warnings or thoughts?
I have always said that I did not believe in a full banking crash. Neither did I believe in a full stock market crash. I have believed in partial destruction. Those of you who've listened to me over the last 5 years, I use the analogy of the sweet shop or the candy store, where I say that imagine you have a candy store, a sweet shop, and you've got 10 staff working there and a manager, and you find the manager is doing some very evil things. You can either go in, publicly arrest this person. It demoralizes your sweet shop. Your staff don't turn up for work. They're in tears. You can't sell sweets and your business collapses. Or do you just go in quietly and take out the manager and replace with another manager and say, yeah, he had a heart attack, we've replaced him. So if you think that we're talking about a country or countries, not a sweet shop, no white hat worth his or her salt is going to go in and destroy the infrastructure because they want to run it. Why would you destroy the infrastructure and then come in and take it over and take you 5 years to build it up? There's some talk about, well, we need to knock it all down so that we can do the RV and then build it up. That's already done. So no, I believe that individual banks, as has happened, individual banks that are connected to crypto, connected to child trafficking, money laundering, they will be removed and destroyed. I think that banks will be weakened so that their influence is much reduced, but it doesn't suit anyone to have a worldwide banking crash. Look, in 2015, when I was a lot younger, a Chinese elder met me and we had a discussion, and he asked me what bank I was in, and I told him, and he said, you need to get out of that one. He said, and he gave me the list of banks that he said, they'll be all right. We're going to look after them. And, how do they look after them? Well, they look after them by flying plane loads of gold around the world and asset backing certain banks. So if you've got a bank that you can do a business with, what you do is you give it assets to match the currency, the notes it's already got. So when we went Basel 3/4 compliant, the banks that were supported by the white hats had the assets. And they're the ones that are buying out the banks that were not supported by the white hats. And that's what's occurring now. So that's really what the game is.
Would you be willing to disclose that list of banks?
Well, this is very interesting because I have decided, I'll explain, I'm actually going to do all of my future podcasts. I've always done them on YouTube. Then, we got chucked off, didn't we? And then
we all did.
Yeah, we did them on Rumble and BitChute. But I've decided, I'm going to just do them on Mighty Networks, which is just for my membership. And I want to explain why that I'm doing that. Last May, that's 11 months ago, last May, I did a podcast which went out on BitChute and Rumble. And I said, we are going to go right through 2022, through Christmas and into 23, and Biden will still be in office. The abuse and hate I got, not from my membership, not from CC members, but from people who watched but are not members, was phenomenal. It was, you're wrong, Simon. Trump's coming back in the summer of 2022, or at the least, the midterm elections in November. And here we are 11 months later, and exactly as I said in that podcast in May, here we are. Now, why is that? It's because the people I speak to are people that really are in the know. And most of the nonsense and rubbish on the Intel boards is either deliberate disinformation or more likely just people making nonsense up. So I got sick to death of people being so nasty. So what I've decided, that's why I went quiet for a long time. I just have so much to do in my own organization. And I thought, right, because I was approached a few weeks ago by, my membership, CC, saying, please, will you do it? And I thought, yeah, just for you. So in future, anybody who wants to hear me speak, they're going to have to join my organization, which is free. You don't pay for it. And then once you join, you get a link to Mighty Networks, which you don't pay for. And you can hear me, and I'll do a probably twice a month update, which I don't charge for, because I'm just sick to death of the people who call themselves patriots, call themselves whatever, and are just vindictive and nasty and don't want to hear the truth. Whereas the people who join my organization have got enough about them to actually understand, well, if Simon's saying this, he's obviously heard it. How many people talk to the admiral? How many people talk to the general? How many people have a connection to the Pentagon? How many people have got connection to QFS? Not many. So that's why there's so much bullshit, BS about, because people are having to create information because they don't actually have it. And finally, before we move on, I am on record as saying I will not push disinformation even for the White Hats. I run a spiritual organization, and my job is to give honest and accurate intel. I will not push disinformation, no matter how good it is, for the White Hats. I will not do it. And I've been put in a very difficult position recently because a lot of the things happening, I know the real reason, but if I was to come out and say that publicly, it would not help the White Hat cause. Now, there are plenty of intel people out there, 107, who will happily put out the White Hat information, which isn't designed to upset patriots or spiritual people, but is designed to hurt the bad guys. That's fair enough. But the problem is, it isn't just the bad guys that listen to all the information that goes out there. It's a whole wide range of audience. And of course, they believe that and they'll follow it. And then they wonder why that date missed, that never happened, etc., etc. And of course, they then get demoralized because they have bought into something. They believed a person. That person has told them stuff, knowing full well that it's BS. And of course, that audience then are damaged. And I'm not prepared to do that. I will only tell the truth. So I'm going to go on to Mighty Networks, and anybody who wants to listen to me in the future, they're going to have to join my organization. And it's not cynical because I don't make any money out of it. I don't pay for it. And the reason for it is if someone comes onto my site and they say, Simon, you're full of shit, I just get rid of them. And they can never come on my site again. They can never watch me again. That's the control I want. They don't pay for it, but I just say, okay, that's your opinion. Get out. I don't want you. Because there's a ton of people. We've got 110,000 people now in Connecting Consciousness who want to listen on Mighty Networks to what I have to say. So this might be the last one that you and I do, Mahoney.
No, I will not accept this.
Well,
Simon.
we can, but it will have to go onto Mighty Networks because I am fed up. I am fed up with people who call themselves patriots who don't want to hear the truth. What they want to hear is it's going to happen tomorrow. Look, I'm sorry I'm taking on, but I think the audience need to hear this. I look at some intel sheets just like you all do. I can't believe the crap. There's one site that said, now when you get your money, You can go to the Redemption Center and you can put $1.5 billion into your account.
Checking it.
$1.5 billion. What? So it's not, for me, it's why are you lying to people? Why are these intel boards lying to people? Why would you say to somebody, you're going to get $1.5 billion for your Zim notes or for your DINA? Why? What? You're just setting people up to be hurt. There's obviously a reason which I don't understand, and I won't push that, and I won't have it. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, go on, your turn.
I was going to ask you, you dropped quite a few little bits and pieces in that. Are you, well, I asked you about the bank lists. Is that a yes or a no then after all that? Because I kind of got lost what you were going to say. Are you going to talk about it on your channel?
I'll talk about it on mine because I'm going to reward people who come to my side, because I'll say, well, God, I can hear Simon on BitChute or Rumble. Why do I need to listen? So yeah, I'm going to save some of the juicy stuff for my own people.
Right. What was the next question? Would you care to share your opinion about how long Biden's going to still be in office?
Sure, absolutely. No problem at all. The first thing I want to say on this is that there's a lot of disinformation. Of course there is. Anybody who tells you, oh, this was all supposed to happen last year, there's been delays, it's all held up, that's all wrong. This is absolutely planned to the day. The planning is absolutely meticulous. So it isn't that there was extra problems or the deep state was so bad, the swamp was so deep. That's just a cover to try to stop people saying, well, why didn't you sort this last year? Why have we gone through all this pain? It's much easier for the White Hats to say, well, because we came across this problem and this held us up and that helped. Don't blame us. It's the deep state. No, the reality is that the White Hats had a plan and a program which they had to follow, and I accept that 100%. Even people who research it don't really grasp what it takes to destroy an underground base. For instance, there was an underground base in Wales that had to be destroyed, and because of the type of rock, Wales has rocks which we call Paleozoic rocks. These are granites, gneisses. They're very, very strong, sometimes radioactive, but they're very strong granites. And a neutron bomb had to be used. Now, this takes weeks. And that's just one base under the United Kingdom. And there are bases everywhere. At the moment, by the way, Charlie would be pleased to know that both Spain and Portugal are being dealt with. They started 2 weeks ago, and they're attacking the tunnels under there. They're not got children in them, they've just got stores and reserves. But the reality is that Biden will go this year.
Okay.
We don't have to wait till 2024.
Good. I mean, for me personally, it's better the idiot, Zelensky's a great, he's an idiot. We know he's an idiot. If you're going to take him out and replace him with somebody else, you're just going to have another idiot, and then you're not quite sure how to deal with him. And for me, unless it's going to be solved totally, you know what? You take Biden out, Harris, does she go in? Does she not go in? Then you're talking about going back to the Senate. Just becomes a flip of a coin. All right, what's going to happen next? Nobody knows. I'd rather be able to identify the idiot that I have to deal with than a surprise idiot being dropped into the throne position. Speaking of idiots, what's your opinion about the coronation coming up for fat-fingered Charlie boy? And I don't mean Charlie Ward.
Oh, bless him.
Charles.
Yeah. When the Queen did the deal with Trump, she not only did her own deal, but she did the deal for her own family. Just give me a minute. My dog's got a huge stick in his mouth. He's taking the fence apart. Just hang on a second. I'll be back.
I love these lives because that's exactly what happens. Excuse me a second. I'm just going to go whack my dog.
Dog. No, this is a stick he's just got. It is live. Yeah, it is. And I think that's what makes it such a down to earth show. And the reality is that I mix with the people. I don't have a superstar lifestyle. I actually meet with my members when I can and talk to people. And I think that, that's perhaps one of the aspects that I don't think about, but I should be proud of the fact that I don't drive around in a Rolls Royce. I don't have a huge expensive bloody car. Anyway, Biden has got to go simply because we can't have the RV while there's a war in Ukraine and we've got Biden. So we can't have those because they are not compatible with what everybody signed up for. Everybody signed up for no wars and having legitimate elected governments. So while we still have that, there can't be an RV. But the audience will know there's been some very big steps, and Charlie would have kept you guys up to date with everything. And so it's not too far off now before people like Biden have to go. Now, look, please don't look necessarily for a great big arrest of Biden. The guy might have a heart attack. The guy might just say, do you know what? I've had enough of this and just walk away. So there are lots of possibilities for him going. I can tell you that it's been arranged within 15 minutes of the phone call, he will go.
Yeah. That's actually good info. 15 minutes. I asked you about Charles. You were talking about the deal that the Queen.
Oh, yeah. So
Trump.
sorry. Right. So basically, when the Queen did what she did, she also protected the concept, not her family, the concept of the crown. So that if you went into a high street bookstore in 50 years' time, you would still read glowingly about the Queen and the royal family. So they can't remove Charles with an arrest because the deal the Queen made allowed that to happen. What you can do is retire somebody, or they can just decide they don't like it anymore. And then you have to think, how do we move Great Britain to being a republic? Because a lot of people still don't get this, Mahoney. We're not going to move to common law. We're not. We're going to move to constitutional law. The United Kingdom has already started having its new constitution written, which will encompass common law. But all countries' constitutions must be based on the Constitution of the United States. So all those books that people have been buying about common law actually won't help them too much. It's constitutional law. We will still have Charles, but I think, going back to Nostradamus, he's right. The deal that the Queen made was for her immediate successor. When her immediate successor goes, we have no more royalty. We'll move to a republic. Okay.
Well, we don't. I mean, both of his sons are not his, so there is nobody else in line. So I mean,
they could pretend, just like they've always done. But the deal, I think, is that they will just step away from it, and by that time we'll have a constitutional system which doesn't require a monarchy. That's the whole point. If you have a constitution, you don't need a monarchy. That's why America has
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. For those that are not quite following that point, the Constitution of the United States is based on people being sick and tired of the tyrannical government of England taxing them, taking them, stripping them, forcing them, enslaving them. So that's why they wrote it. So this Constitution was originally written for people's sovereignty and freedom. So this is going to come back across the Atlantic as well. Into most of the world are going to implement more or less the American Constitution onto their governing and the citizens. Simon, who's got the finger on the rods of God? Who controls this? And explain more about it, please.
Right. A lot of the exotic equipment originally was fought over in terms of control. So the CIA, of course, wanted control. The only good guy at the time was the National Security Agency, the NSA. And although they are basically encrypting and breaking codes, they were a lot more than that. But it was the secret military, the bad guys, who controlled a lot of it. And then when the Space Force became properly funded and funded on a way that came through Trump, then the elite of the good guys took control of the rods of God and also the energy beam weapons, but also a lot of other technology, which even some of the researchers haven't a clue of. So who controls it? The good guys do. The bad guys have still got a finger on some of the weather manipulation, but nothing like they had. So I would say that now 95% of all what I call exotic technology or advanced technology is now held by the good guys. Look, last year, the bad guys were running around with 6 dirty, we call them dirty bombs, 6 suitcases, or they were briefcases, between about 25 years old, nuclear briefcases, and they were threatening to blow them up. And in a number of cases, the arming mechanism was being 25 years old, was defective. 2 of them were in Australia, 1 was in Britain, and was in Germany. And the reason the deep state had to resort to that is because they don't have the control of the advanced equipment. Look at the election of 2020. It was the CIA who controlled the Galileo satellite working for the Vatican to do the false election. But of course, the National Security Agency and the Space Force were monitoring that and watched it in real time. Now, what happened very quickly was the president and the prime minister of Italy basically turned his back on the Vatican, did a deal with Trump, and passed all that information over. So the bad guys don't have any either conventional secret or what we call exotic. Exotic is alien back engineered technology. We just use the word exotic. Okay.
Yep, that's good. I'm going to presume that you've been watching the shooting in Nashville.
I haven't, but I have had a briefing on it.
Okay, so a young trans fella, madam, whatever you want to say, wanders in and starts shooting everything. Body cam footage is released very quickly. Already people have picked up some discrepancies between different shoes on the body and shoes being taken out on the stretcher. If you haven't really looked into it, Simon, maybe you're not able to comment on it because it's looks like another false flag. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a very nice way to let me out of it if I want.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to put you on the spot if you haven't.
Bless you. Oh no, I came to this planet to be put on the spot. I would. That's why I never got in trouble with the other one, because whenever there was a shooting, I would say something very wrong with this. However, people have died. And that's why I didn't get sued. That's why, InfoWars is looking at multi-million-pound suits, because he was stupid and didn't actually have the right contacts. He believed nonsense, and that's why he paid the price for it. The reality is that these are scripted, they are organized, but people really die. That's the tragedy. These things are manipulated at a very high level, and people die. And the point is that the truth will never come out. Never, ever, ever. Will the truth ever come out that Biden is an actor? No, it won't. People are expecting that to come out. No, it won't. Why would the White Hats go to all of this effort to do that, all behind the scenes, and then come out and say, well, actually, he was a placeman and we put him in? Because the next question is why, and what was the point? And you can't have that. So a lot of these shootings will go down as straightforward shootings with the straightforward answer, a bit like Jeffrey Epstein died in prison, end of story. And that's it. Doesn't matter whether the man is alive somewhere. That's the official line, and the truth will never come out.
Yeah. It's a strange one, that, because for me it was very, very odd that the footage from the camera, the shooting officer, was released so quickly. Normally that would be held and examined and looked at it to see if there was any wrongdoing on the police department, on any of the procedure and what happened. But it was released very, very quickly, which I thought that makes me feel a bit uneasy. Simon, it's an old question, chemtrails, because they seem to be coming and going. In my experience, some days there's none, and then you just see a jet leaving a normal vapor trail, and then the next day, they're like the sky's riddled with them. Have you had any updates? Because it's a question that a lot of people want to know about. Are they spraying the sky still with poison, or has it been replaced in some cases with some sort of healing chemical up there?
No, you've answered your own question. If you look at chemtrails that have been sprayed not since this December, but the previous December, that's when the changeover occurred, not this Christmas, last Christmas. When the wind is blowing, you will see them being remarkably different. Material is now being put, which is designed to combat the COVID-19 virus, which is a very real virus. Let's not get that mistaken. To try to do something with the heavy metals, and it's a good guy operation. But it'll take a very long time because we've had 25, 30 years of poison. But no, the good guys control that aspect of it now. And they did it by cutting off the money, funding. And I've got to be careful what I say because they don't want to upset, big corporations. But if you are a big corporation and you rely on advertising, so you receive advertising revenue, but let's say you do money laundering for somebody on the side and 20% of your revenue comes in from money laundering. So you recruit staff and you buy offices and you work up to that amount of money coming in. And then if the good guys come along and cut off that 20%, so what you're left with is the legitimate advertising revenue. That's why you've got to let people go. That's why you've got to close buildings, because you expanded to a financial base which is no longer there. And so look for organizations that are letting people go in the thousands and closing, physical buildings. And that is because they operated at a set income level, which the white hats have now cut off. So you can see immediately that organizations are having to rely on their legitimate income streams.
Interesting one, that. I don't get any side effects from any of the chemtrails. Did I before? I don't remember. Because I was aware of them, but not super aware like now. Okay, Simon, is there a nuclear scare coming?
I don't accept that 100%. I think it's a genuine option for the good guys. We've had a lot of talks about nuclear power stations. Absolute. What are you doing? Stop it. Stop it.
I'm also tying that into this stuff going on in the Ukraine, the conflict.
We've had stories of Chinese balloons with nuclear bombs under them or EMP devices. It's all absolute nonsense for kindergartens. And unfortunately, 75% of the Western world are adults with a kindergarten mind. And so the white hats are absolutely spot on. They know exactly the level of intelligence that these people have because they're mind controlled. And so all of this kindergarten stuff is not aimed for us, not the audience here, but is aimed for these people who eat it all up, and it's all the truth. So the reality is that, yes, you could have a nuclear situation, a bit like the Bay of Pigs, but it would have to be very carefully scripted and would have to be dealt with very quickly. And I said to my group when I was doing my chat with my coordinators, if this is not handled properly, what are you doing? Stop it. If it's not, this is not the good time for me, but normally do these sort of things when the dogs are in bed. If you look at the number of people that had suicides over the lockdown, can you imagine what would happen if there was a fake nuclear threat that looked like a nuclear war? Yes, people would find God. The churches would be absolutely jam-packed, but the number of people killing themselves would be horrendous. Would be absolutely horrendous. And I think that I would personally ask the White Hats to think very, very carefully about that particular option. And I do believe that if there is an option to get this done without pushing to that degree, they will take it. They've got these options, and those options have been discussed in alternative media. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Where's the EBS? That was rammed down everyone's throat for over 2 years. And again, my view is that EBS will be used in America in counties, not even maybe a state. You've got an issue in a town or a city, you just literally do an EBS in a 5-mile radius. So a lot of the stuff that's out there, I don't think is actually going to happen.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well. I think it could, but will it? I think we've all learned by those mistakes in the past. Again, they like to keep that fear, that feeling of fear. And America's been great at doing this, guys. I remember going into the States after 9/11 and looking at a TV screen. You have a banner going across the bottom all the time saying, you know, terrorist strike imminent, high terror alert, you know, orange amber alert. It was going on for years just to keep that fear generated in you.
Yeah, because then the CIA controlled it, there was a Delta Force that went in. There was one secure location that controlled all of the EBS signals from Earth, and a Delta Force team. I think they lost two, and there was a gun battle, and they had to literally. It was these like big, huge steel blast doors it was in, but they got there, and they wrested the control of the EBS off the bad guys, and that was last year.
Okay, we reached the top of the hour. We'll have another couple of questions. We'll go another couple of minutes. Do you think this disclosure of UFOs and incidents is going to continue? And what's the reason that the government are slipping this into the public corner vision?
Best way I can answer that. In 2010, I went public with my own experiences. I don't know how many of the audience really know who I am. I went public with that. I did it deliberately because I intended to stand for election. And I thought, I'm not going to be elected and then this stuff will come out, because people would then say, well, if you told us who you really were and what the truth was, we wouldn't have voted for you. So, of course, I went public with it and I was elected. And I was elected again. And I was elected again. That's what upset the deep state, because I was truthful with the electorate. But the reality is that I went public with my off-planet experiences. I'm answering your question, Mahoney, but I'm going to do it this way around. If you're
sure.
Just let me go. So I went public with my experiences. And if I went out on the street and I talked to 100 people, 99 people would say I was crazy and mad and didn't believe it. One person would believe me. But the elite from both sides, good and bad, would come up to me and say, we've got no problem with what you tell us. We know it's true. We know all about it. A lot of the elite would say to me, I've not actually personally seen what you've seen, but the guys who advise me, they've seen it. In 2015, I was a guest speaker and I talked about aliens and UFOs. And then I was approached, and I got a witness to this because it was so wonderful. And I was approached by a guy from these secret societies. And his exact words to me were, you've come across my radar because my employers have told me about you. And I've been sent all the way from America to discuss with you. So I've got a question for you. But before I give you the question, he said to me, I've got 3 offers for you. And the offers are not dependent on your answer. You said you can turn around and say, I refuse to answer your question. You're still going to get these 3 offers. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So I said, what are the offers? He said, well, the first offer, he said, is bullet resistant, blacked out vehicles for your use at any time, armed guards for your use at any time. And his exact words to me were, if the world goes to shit, we have put aside for you a nuclear bunker for your friends and loved ones under Salisbury Plain. He said, we normally charge $1 million per person, but yours is free. Because he said, my employers absolutely believe you. They believe what you say. And then he asked me the question. It was a very difficult question. I decided I'd answer it. It took me 2 days to answer it. I met him in the car park, and then 3 separate occasions I had to answer it because it was so complicated. I didn't take him up on any of those, by the way. But this was always very upsetting to me. I'm coming back to your question now, that the ordinary man and woman in the street knows nothing, absolutely zero. But the elite know it all. And I think the good guys have decided it is now time to start to share the truth with the people slowly. If the things I've talked about were made up, if I was insane or mad, then I wouldn't be backed by the White Hats. Because remember, everybody, that in 2013, that long ago, I was invited to the Space Radar Base in Britain. And, I turned up to that Space Radar Base, and it's the Ministry of Defense Police with the machine guns. And I was given a tour of the Space Radar, the only one in Great Britain, the only one in the world, which is a 3-phased array. There's only one more in America, it's a 2-phased array. But anyway, and the guard very politely says to the driver, I wasn't driving, or was I driving? I can't remember, but says to the other person, identity. So this person hands their passport. So the guard literally looks at the passport, looks at the person, looks at the passport, looks at the person, says, right, you're cleared. And I then go to hand my identity, and the guard just says, oh, no, sir, that won't be required. We know who you are. And that was in 2013. And we were supposed to have a 1-hour trip around the space radar with 3.5 hours. And at the end of it, I was presented with a very special 50-year, they call them a challenge coin. Okay. There are only 500 in the world made. Mine's number 48, I think. And the guy said, we give these to presidents, prime ministers, generals, ministers of defense. So the guy says his name was Flight Lieutenant Wicks, who took us around. And he said, I can't give you one. I can only present it. I present it to these people. And I said, well, can't you present one to me? And the guys all behind, there's 30 of us. I was the only non-military. Everyone else there was serving military. And they all laughed. And you should have seen their faces change when the guy says, yeah, I don't see why not. Which one do you like? So I said, that one, they'll like that one. So he gets it down. He says, right, well, the Americans insist, because it's really an American base. They pretend it's RAF. He said, the Americans insist that I've got a sheet here with all the numbers. Number 48. He said, what's your name? I said, you know what my name is? He said, I know, but just give me a name. Puts the name down. And he says, you know what the Americans are like? He said, they made us pay for this. We have no budget heading. They made us pay for all of it. So we do have to ask for a donation. And he said, it's really embarrassing because if the Prime Minister comes here, the next day we've got to phone up at Downing Street and ask for a donation. So I actually had £10, gave him the £10. He said, that's very kind, thank you. The two guys behind me, they then get out their £10 because they want one. And the guy just closes his cash box, puts it away, shuts it up and says to everyone, we've got to go now. Now, when I go do conferences and I meet people, I take it with me and I say, there you go, you can actually look at it and see what it is. You won't find them on eBay. You won't find them on Amazon, because what I was told is this is not your property. This belongs to the United States of America. You are not allowed to sell it. When you die, you can bequeath it in your will to your next of kin. That's how important it is. So when you understand what's happened to my life and the sort of people I mix with, that's why it's so frustrating, Mahoney, when good, honest people who believe the lies they've been given think that there is no other intelligence outside the earth. I'm sorry I've gone on, but I thought that might be interesting.
No, it's a great story. I remember you touched on it before, but it's good.
Yeah,
one to hear.
not in detail. Not in detail. Yeah.
Yeah, you added a lot more details to that. Okay, Simon, to take us out, why don't you share something that's good news? Because we've talked about a lot of things that piss people off. Shootings and nuclear attacks and fake Asian aliens.
Okay.
What would you like to share that you think has happened in the last 30 days? That's good news.
The good news is that the RV will happen and people will be very happy to look in their bank accounts because money is going to be put in people's bank accounts. People on Social Security will get more, pensioners will get more. The way that we are treated will be with respect. That's the first thing. The second thing people will notice is that everyone who has a profession will have to basically sign a new contract to act in a way that's much more appropriate to the truth. So we are absolutely blessed to be living in a time that sees this transference after thousands of years of oppression into a real-time, I'm going to say utopia, but a real-time life that's worth living. And I'm so sorry for people in some ways who didn't get the chance to do this, but I'm also more angry with people who are here and don't do anything positive. Because if you're here for a reason. And, it's about helping and being involved. And I get very annoyed at people who are very petty, very small-minded, and aren't prepared to put, the wider community first. So I am very positive. I'm very pleased at the way things are going. I'm absolutely confident, 100%, the bad guys are beaten in the sense that they cannot now call the shots. They're still there. They can still cause a problem. But the reality is now we are running a race at the slowest person. And this is what's frustrating for all of us here today, that we are being held back by, I will just let you in a secret, the white hats refer to the unawakened, unaware as the fluoride crew. All right? They call it the fluoride crew. We are held back by these people because if we rush ahead and we hit the tape and we've won, they're all struggling at the back. They don't even know what the hell the race is about. And, that is why it's taking long, and they knew it would take this long, is that what's the point in 10% or 15% of the world's population saying, we get it, we've got it, fantastic. But you've got all these other people who are looking at you and saying, I don't know what is going on, I don't know what's happening. So unfortunately, it is at a slow speed, but it is really good. And we're really pleased. Charlie Ward's Insiders, Simon Parkes Connecting Consciousness are two very important platforms that have a future in the new times to come. Okay.
The new world order. We could have said
no,
that.
I was never going to say that. That's why I said the new future.
I'm just teasing you.
Well, I know you. I know you so well, but I do have to be careful because, when I say things, it carries weight, and I don't want to be misquoted. I know what the new world order means, but we're talking about a new earth. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a new concept of living, and it can't come soon enough.
Birthing. We are birthing new earth, Simon. Birthing.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds very feminine. So let's go with that.
Simon, thank you so much for joining us today, standing in for Charlie. I look forward to seeing you next month in person in Manchester. Don't forget, we are doing a show, Simon, Charlie, and myself. We're going to be there for 2 afternoons and 1 evening or 2 evenings. 2 evenings as well, I think. I'm
certainly attending, being invited, and I'm always delighted to attend. It's very important to meet the people. There is always a security aspect to all of these things, and sometimes it means that we can't quite be as open, as pally, and as friendly as possible. But it's certainly going to be an opportunity to meet people, to talk to people, and I believe in meeting people. I do not believe in hiding in a cave or hiding in a 12-story building. I like being out there meeting people. So I'm looking forward to it. And looking forward to seeing and saying hi to everyone.
Yeah, me too. Simon, have a great weekend. Have a great Easter. We'll see you very soon. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to stay on for another couple of minutes, as I usually do, just to debrief a little bit more. And we'll speak to you very soon. Thanks, Simon.
God bless. Take care to everyone.
Bye. All right, guys, that was the legend Simon Parkes. We got some great info out of him today. That was a good show. Covered some different topics and some topics that are on heat at the moment. They are getting a lot of attention, such as the Nashville shooting and the banking situation. Just to let you know, we have now introduced a different site. Oh, well, I can't get into it now. Healthworldforyou.com or mahoneylive.com. You can still go on and you can access all the meds there. We've got some great new stuff as well. Glutathione, for example. We've got enzymes. My friend, I gave some digestive enzymes to. It cured his Crohn's disease. Now, I'm not saying made it better. I said he hasn't had it anymore. It's gone. So go on mahoneylive.com and you'll see all of the meds that we're talking about. And I'll be back on Tuesday next week. And again Wednesday with Charlie's Insiders Club. As we get into April, let's see what madness April is going to offer. I can feel there's a definite change of weather. There's a change of wind. And I think we are now coming out the other side of this dark tunnel that we've been in. Slowly but surely, we can just see a shaft of light down at the end of that tunnel. And that's where I personally feel we're at right now. So, guys, have an amazing weekend. We'll see you next week. We're back for much more of the same and some new intel shared from both Charlie and myself. And until then, stay fit, stay strong.